And welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. My guest this evening is Sue Hotkowski from Homeward Bound, Connecticut. Sue, welcome. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming down. So for those of my viewers and listeners that don't know what Homeward Bound, Connecticut is, can you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization, what exactly you guys do?
Definitely.
Excellent.
I am president of Homeward Bound, Connecticut, and we are a group of volunteers who help rescues, either by hosting adoption events, posting dogs on Facebook, sharing their dogs, fundraising for them, whatever way we can do to help the rescues.
All right. Now, what are some of the events that you guys have done in the past?
In the past, we've had a couple of adoption events at the Chester Fairgrounds, Durham Fairgrounds. We also had a couple at Portland at the Hale Hill Tree Farm. So we've had adoption events where rescues have come, brought their dogs, and we've showcased them, and hopefully most of them get adopted.
Nice. And what normally how many dogs are?
Our large events were anywhere from 50 to 60 dogs, and then throughout the year, we'll do smaller events where there might be 10 or 20.
Very nice.
It all depends.
Now, during the adoption events, what typically happens?
Well, the adoption events, what we do is we'll post and promote the dogs prior to the event, usually within a month, if not more. We'll start accepting applications, and we'll start checking the references so that when the dogs do come to the event, and the people do come, they've already had the references checked, and so they've had that portion done. You can still walk in and fill out an application at the event, but our big reference is our veterinarian reference, and so since they're not open all the time throughout the whole weekend, we like to do it prior. And then the adopters will do many different things. They come in, they meet all the dogs. So we have a dog team that actually checks them and meets them with what they're looking for as far as our criteria is concerned. They will meet with a trainer, meet with an interview team, and then meet with the rescue, and then hopefully find a home.
Exactly. Now, you guys actually do background checks on people?
We do. We check references. We check vet references and personal references. If it's a first-time adopter, we may do a home visit prior to the event so that we know. And we also talk directly with them. It's not just a paper application. We also, if we have any questions or any concerns, we'll approach them then so that we can take care of any questionable issues beforehand.
Exactly. And what are some of the questions? Have you ever had questionable issues?
Well, you know, some of them, obviously, anybody who lives in an apartment, there's always the landlord issue. Sometimes people will say, oh, my dog, oh, yes, my landlord will be fine. Well, we do take the step to call the landlord and actually confirm that, yes, this person can have a dog. If it's a first-time adopter, there's always the issue of, are you aware of how much it actually costs to have a dog as far as the veterinarian bills and training and so on and so forth. If somebody has regularly returned dogs or euthanized a dog for a reason that could have been prevented, that's usually a red flag for us. So we try to find out really what happened as far as that story is concerned. So we try to help the rescues so that the rescues don't have to do that. So we're doing this step for them so that they can just focus on the dogs that they're bringing up. At this time, the dogs have already been pulled from the rescue down south. They're already or from the kill shelters. They're already with the rescues. They're being vetted. They're being trained. They're being worked with. So we want them to focus on the dogs right now and let us open the doors, and all of a sudden there's these people, and you can then talk with them and actually decide whether they're good enough to adopt their dogs.
And what do you think the rate is for people that are good enough to adopt their dog?
We have a really good percentage of good adopters. I want to say there's maybe 5 or 10% that will automatically say, yeah, no, we don't want them. We have had some people recently who have asked specifically to adopt a dog for a therapy dog. And this rescue that we work with, they don't want to do that. These dogs have already had enough baggage on them to actually say, okay, now you're going to be a therapy dog and you have to work. That's not what they want. In the end, if it's a great dog and somebody wants to make it a therapy dog and train it, that's great. But we don't want to put a dog into service. We want these dogs to find family homes that they deserve.
Exactly. And obviously, if you're going to be a service dog, that's probably a time commitment in itself.
Well, that's a time commitment, and not just that. There are organizations that breed these dogs specifically for service. They're temperament. They're bred for temperament.
Okay.
And a shelter dog, you have no idea of its history, so you don't know whether it's bred for the right temperament. You know, it might look like a Labrador, but it might not be a Labrador. You know.
That can happen?
Oh, well, especially the shelters, yeah. If
Really?
it's, you know, there's lots of dogs that they say are lab mixes, and they do a DNA test and they find it's part Dalmatian and part this and part that. So you never know, unless it's an actual owner surrender and somebody's actually said, here, take my dog. And then maybe you have a breed specific there.
Now, what is an owner surrender? Basically, the person can't have the dog anymore?
Exactly. The person can't afford the dog. The person is moving, can't keep them in their living situation.
Right.
You know, that does happen.
Of course it does.
Which is kind of a hard thing for us when you've got someone who lives in an apartment and right now their landlord in the apartment they live in, it's okay. But what happens if you move out
Right.
and then you can't find an apartment that'll take a dog? So that's a situation a lot of the times, and sometimes, sadly, people just surrender dogs because the dog's too old and they want a new puppy. And
Really?
It's sad, but oh, it happens.
That's depressing.
It's very depressing. It's very sad. So that's why these rescue dogs are very grateful to have that home. You know, I think a lot of people want to adopt a puppy where the older dogs really have that history and really are going to appreciate you giving them that bed and that home and that
Right.
food every day that they didn't get, you know, previously.
Exactly. I'm assuming being a dog in a shelter is probably no fun.
Pardon?
Being a dog in a shelter is probably not a fun experience.
Oh no, I'm sure it's not. We're really lucky in Connecticut that we have some really good shelters and good, you know, rescues. But down south, it's definitely not the same situation. And there are some shelters in Connecticut that are overrun. And so we want to get these dogs out and we want to help them find homes.
Now, typically throughout the year, how many events do you guys have?
Typically, well, we've only actually been in existence for a couple of years, so there isn't really a typical. But right now, I think we've got 6 events. Okay. We'd like to do that. We do definitely 2 large events, which will be our 50 to 60 dogs. And then we try to do smaller events, which are more, are better show events for the shelter dogs directly in our Connecticut shelters, because most of them are pit bulls and they don't necessarily show very well when you've got 70 dogs.
No,
and
of course not.
It's too much. So we try to do smaller events for them also.
Now, as far as the adoption process goes, how entailed is that?
We've had some complaints because it takes a very long time, but we are very, very vigilant on making sure that these dogs are going to the right home. For us, it's all about the dogs, for sure.
Exactly.
So it can take very long. Can be a long process, or it can be a smooth process, depending on how it all works. Whether sometimes a family can walk in and you know automatically they're going to be amazing dog owners and they're going to really love the dogs and the kids are very respectful and whatever. And then there's other people who you may really have to dig deep to find out whether they really are good adopters or not.
Really? Wow. Now, as far as the organization goes, you guys are how old?
We started in September of 2014.
All right. So
So that's a year and a half.
About a year and a half?
Yep.
Now, how did the idea of the organization come about?
Many of us volunteers all worked with other dog rescues and other organizations that did this.
Sure.
So that's where we kind of thought about it and came together and decided we could do this too. There's never too many opportunities for a rescue to be able to showcase their dog. So as far as we're concerned, the more opportunities these rescues have to come and showcase their dogs, the better.
Now, as far as the showcasing the dog, doing a dog showcase, is it pretty entailed or is it pretty cut and dry?
Well, no, it's pretty, you know, When you ask that, you mean we post the dogs
Right.
previously. They're on our Facebook page. They're on Adopt a Pet. They're on our website.
Okay.
Our website has pictures of the dogs and full descriptions of the dogs, all right next to it, so you can just click and see all the different dogs that are going to be there. At the events, we have crates. We put them all out there in the crates. We try to make sure that they're all happy and whatever and
Right.
comfortable, and space them out enough so that all the dogs can be seen. And we do have usually 3 people assigned to every 5 dogs.
Nice. Now, is there like a checklist when you come in and?
There is. There's actually, as an adopter, when an adopter walks in, there's actually what we call the adopter form. So
Okay.
what they have to do is they start with their name and address and phone number. Then they'll go and meet with the dogs, and they have to get signed off by one of the members of the dog team that says, yes, we think this is a good fit. Or if the dog team thinks, no, these people really want this Jack Russell Terrier, but they're 90 years old
Right.
and the dog's only 6 months, so it's
Right.
not going to work, they'll actually write that, I have a concern, so that we know. We try to direct them to the right dogs.
Right.
We always will. Some of them will still argue, whatever.
Of course they will.
And then they'll go and they'll meet with a trainer. The trainers will meet with the dog and the family to make sure it's a good fit.
Okay.
If they already own a dog, we have them bring that dog, so they'll do meet and greets with the dogs and make sure the dogs get along and all that works well. If that gets signed off, and again, that's step number 3 that gets signed off by the vet, then they'll go to the interview team. The interview team will then pull out their actual original application and use this form and talk to them and go through, ask questions, and confirm everything they've answered. That can take 15 minutes to 20 minutes right there. And then if that's then approved, that'll get signed off, and then they actually go to the rescue. And at that point, even up to that point, the rescue can turn around and say, no, you're not a good fit for this dog.
Really?
Definitely,
They could
because they know the dog better than we do.
Right.
They'll know that a dog is, much too active for them. It requires too much as far as that's concerned. But if it goes and everything's great, the contract's signed, we take pretty pictures of the dogs and their new families, and off they go on to their new world. And then we do, after about a month, we do follow-up visits on all the
I was
dogs.
going to say you probably do a check-in every,
Yes, we
just
do.
to make sure everybody's
We do.
okay. And
We do, and many of them make a point of sending us pictures of the dogs in
Of
their new
course they do.
home and want to say, hey, here it is. So it's been really good. We've had a pretty good success rate, and we're really happy with, even though it is labor intensive to get a dog, it's worth it in the end if it's the right fit.
very nice. Sue Hotkowski, would you mind sticking around for another segment?
No problem.
All right, we'll be right back.
Thanks.
Start a story. Adopt at theshelterpetproject.org.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. Sitting here with Sue Hotkowski. How are you? Welcome back, Sue.
Welcome. Well, thank you for having me.
No problem. Thanks for sticking around. So we were talking about during the first segment about the organization and exactly what you guys want, what you guys do. So what would you like to talk about to open up this segment?
Well, we're really excited about our adoption event that's coming up.
All right.
And it's May 21st through May 22nd.
All right.
And it's at the Durham Fairgrounds.
Excellent.
All of our dogs are currently on our website right now.
Okay.
So you can see what dogs are coming. It's very strongly recommended that people fill out applications prior so that we can check the references. There are a lot of requirements when you come to the event. The entire family has to be there. If you have, just so we know, a lot of the times we'll have a family that'll come walk in and the kids are all excited and the mom's excited and the husband's like, yeah, I don't really care. And we're kind of like,
Great.
it's a little scary because sometimes that's the person who's going to say, get rid of this dog. This isn't the one I wanted.
Exactly.
And we have had that. So we try to make sure that everybody is there. Another big thing is if you live in a condo, we ask that you bring the copy of the condo agreement because many condominiums have specific size
Right.
requirements as far as dogs, and sadly enough, some people have breed specifics.
Right.
We have found that many of the dogs that come to our event, we don't always know the breed. So we do have to be careful of that as far as anybody who lives in an apartment or lives in a condo situation. We have to make sure that they know what their requirements are, what the specifics are. We have found that there are many insurance companies that do insure bully breeds, which are your boxers, your pit bulls, can be German shepherds
Okay.
to Rottweilers and so on and so forth, and all of those dogs are classified as bully breeds, but there are now a lot of insurance companies that will insure those dogs. So that's always some information we have for those people. We do have a vet on hand that
Okay.
actually checks the dogs when they first come
Excellent.
off transport, and we do like to have a vet there so that the people, if they don't have a vet, they can actually talk to a vet and get an
Correct.
idea of what to expect and what to happen. Again, as I say, we also have a trainer there, at least one, usually multiple trainers that are always there for help. All of the trainers who work with us at our events always follow up and will support any of the dogs if there are any problems in the future, which is always nice to have. I'm trying to think of what
That's okay.
else wonderful stuff we do. It's a very labor-intensive process to get a dog,
Yeah.
but it could take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending. But obviously, if you come first thing Saturday morning when the doors open and everybody's there and it's mass chaos and everybody's like, I want Fluffy, and
No.
everybody wants Fluffy because he's the cute little Pomeranian.
Exactly.
But so it does take a while. It does take time as far as that's concerned. But we try to make it an enjoyable process for all of them so that everybody has a good time.
Now, as far as the background check goes, how labor intensive is that?
Well, we ask for a vet reference and 3 non-related references. Unfortunately, not
gotcha.
many people do that. When all the same last name, we're like, I think you know them. I don't know. It makes it easier to have non-personal. I mean, obviously, we want your friends. We want somebody. When we check references, we'll find out if they're first-time dog owners. Oh, do you have a dog? Yeah. Oh, how do they interact with your dog? Oh, they're great. And how are the kids with the dogs? So we'll ask those kind of questions to make sure, what's the house like? Do they have a fence? Do they really, are you comfortable? Do you think they're really ready to get a dog? Usually nobody's going to give a reference that is going to be
Right,
bad,
right.
but that's we have to take our chances on that one. But every once in a while there might be a person who will say, I know they really want a dog, but I really don't know if they should.
They're ready for it.
So we will have a couple of those. And then that's as far as we go as far as that. A lot of the time we spend is with the actual people themselves. So they're going to get greeted by our greeter. They're going to meet with the dog team people. They're going to get a feel for what these people are like and watch the kids interact with the dogs and so on and so forth. And then they're going to go to the trainer, and the trainer's going to check with these people and talk with these people and really get a feeling. On to the interview team where there's going to be much more labor intensive, much more questions, and we have all the kids there and everybody asking, and then they'll go to the rescue, and the rescue does make the final decision. We're just here to help them,
Right.
and we're hoping that by the time they get to that point, the rescues will be comfortable with us saying that, yeah, we think this is a good potential adopter. There are always going to be issues or something that this one person said that totally set that rescue off, and she said, no, you can't have my dog. And they're their dogs, so we're
Really?
okay with that because we'll find the right home. It sounds crazy, but it really isn't, because nurtured and taken care of these dogs and know what these dogs are, know what these dogs can handle. And some people will say, oh, well, he'll only be in a crate 12 hours a day. And then there's somebody here they're retired and they want to be home with the dog all the time. So what do? You look for the best fit for the dog, is what we do. And it's fun. It's definitely fun. It's definitely rewarding. We've had some amazing adoptions. There was the last event we did at Durham. The adoption of the event, as far as I was concerned, was a gentleman who came in and he wanted this collie. And the rescue, or one of the volunteers said, I don't think he can handle this collie, but his sister's not here, so I want to talk, do you want to talk to him? So I went and I talked to him, and he was special needs, really nice gentleman, and he explained how he had a dog that was 14 years old, and he knew that his dog couldn't take another winter. He was a 14-year-old black lab, couldn't take another winter. He knew to make that decision to put that dog to sleep, but he wanted another dog. He wanted this collie. And when I explained to him that the rescue really thinks this dog needs a lot of energy. It was young, it was a puppy, and he's older. And as he said, she doesn't think that'll be a good fit. Will you walk around with me to look at the other dogs? And he's like, sure. So I walked around with him, and his sister wasn't there at the time. And we walked around, and there was one dog that was this not old, like 2-year-old black lab. But it had been kicked by a cow, so his back vertebrae wasn't right. He could walk, he could do fine, but he wasn't going to go hiking 5 miles.
Exactly.
And I actually introduced the two of them, and this guy Fred just got down, and the two of them were it was just tearjerker. Seriously.
So he went home with?
He went home with Fred, and
really?
It was an awesome, awesome adoption. All of us were in tears, sobbing. So there's always one of those adoptions that we all cry at.
I was going to say, as far as stories go, do you have a memorable story besides Fred that sticks out in your mind since you guys have been doing this?
Well, there's always one dog at every event that I fall in love with. The very first event we had, his name was Stanley, and he was like a golden white dog, and he was kind of a collie mix, and everybody loved him. And it was hard because we had 2 families that were really close to being perfect, and the rescue had to make that decision. And it ended up being that she knew this family, that somebody was going to be home with Stanley all the time, and these people were going to be home on and off, but not as much. So she had picked these people, but it was extremely difficult for her as a rescue to tell somebody you're not the right family. And that was another tearjerker for me. That was my favorite dog for that event. And we've had some amazing, amazing people who have come in and given homes. There's somebody who came in and took a dog that she had Demodex, and she just looked horrible, and she's just like, I love this dog, and it was great. And they went home, and I've seen them since out a few times when we have events at a Pet Value or something. Some of these people will know we're there, they'll pop in. And she's come in a couple of times with a dog, and I've seen her, and the dog looks amazing, and she's so happy. So there's always those feel-good stories, which are great.
Now, you just mentioned that you guys do events with like Pet Value. What types of events do you do?
We'll do, sometimes they'll ask us to come because they have Pet Appreciation Weekend or something like that. So we'll go, we've done photos with the Easter Bunny, photos with Santa Claus as fundraisers, or if we have a rescue that has a couple of dogs, we'll help them. We'll go there and volunteer with them and showcase their dogs.
Very nice, very nice. Now, as far as the, like you said, you guys try to find the perfect fit for dog and family.
Excuse me.
Obviously, it's very hard for the breeder to say to the person, I don't think this is going to work out.
For the rescues, no, it is hard. But we've always, we try to be honest about it.
Right, totally.
We had a dog that was very shy, very quiet, and the rescue said this is the perfect family, and it was this couple with these 2 little kids. They had never had a dog of their own. And one of our volunteers was like, this is not going to work, no. And we pulled the rescue aside and we talked to her, and she said, no, it'll be fine. I personally went and did that home visit. That dog couldn't have been happier. Greeted me happy. The kids loved him. It was perfect. So the rescues do know.
Right.
And so even though we may say, I don't think this is going to work, she's like, yep, it will. They know.
It'll work.
They know, they have that, and I'm sure anybody who has dogs who finds homes for them, even a purebred breeder will know. They go through all that work to make sure, yes, my dog it's my dog. It's going to the right home.
I guess the other question I have is, how time intensive is it to have a dog?
It depends. You're talking to someone who takes her dogs to work with her every day. So my dogs are with me 24/7, and I love being with my dogs.
Gotcha.
I love walking them. It's when I can actually think, when I'm actually walking and can think. It doesn't have to be time. It's more the time you spend with that dog is quality time. Just
Correct.
like with your kids. If you think about it, I think of my dog as the same as my children.
Exactly.
If I spend quality time with him walking once a day or twice a day, a good half hour, 45-minute walk, they're happy just laying there the rest of the day, and they don't need anything much more.
Exactly.
So it all depends. It's always good to groom your dog, and that's depending, people have to think of that when they're picking their dog.
Exactly.
Lots of people want the big fluffy dogs, which I have, but the big fluffy dogs are groomed constantly.
Exactly. Well, Sue Hotkowski, I want to thank you for coming down tonight, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
All right. On behalf of Sue Hotkowski, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next week.